Welcome to Optimal Frequency. I'm Grant. We're in the middle of a two-part session I did on Alexander Zass. I almost screwed up his name. Alexander Zass, the amazing Samson. Strongman. He was born in like 1888, and then up into the 30s, 40s, 50s, he was still performing. There's actually footage I wanted to show you guys of this guy that exists from like 1934. Pretty awesome stuff. Him bending bars. He gets on a bench. They hit him with some sledgehammers. Pretty cool stuff. YouTube in its infinite wisdom won't allow me to show that because it deems that the few pennies I would make now need to go to, I forget the name of the channel, British Path or something like that. Anyways, Google it, check it out. It is pretty cool to have footage of this guy. Let's get back into this. The turning point in Alexander's fate came in the summer of 1908. Despite Alexander's timid protests, Zass Sr. sent a 20-year-old boy to Orenburg to study at a local locomotive depot for a fireman position or, if lucky, as an assistant driver. In early October, Orenburg newspapers announced the arrival in the city of a first-class circus Andrzejewski with his huge troupe. Alexander, of course, came to see the show. After a couple of days, he appeared before the director, to whom he spoke about how he was attracted to such a life. To Alexander's great surprise, the director said, "Do you want to work in a circus? Well, you can come to us as a laborer. You will help where needed, but life here is difficult. Do not hesitate. You will work for many hours, and it may happen that you have to starve. Think carefully." Alexander did not hesitate before accepting. For over 6 months, he did not tell his father that he had fallen in with the circus, but instead maintained his ruse as a locomotive's assistant driver. How did it feel to lie to your father about studying as a locomotive driver's assistant? I can hear a man's voice over my shoulder. What was life like when you first joined the circus? You had a wife who died in childbirth not long after you were married. Can you explain or describe to us the devastation and sorrow that you felt at that time? The message that I just deciphered here has nothing to do with the question that I asked, but it is totally amazing. Now, I asked about his wife, who I can't find a lot of information on. Apparently, they met at the circus when they were both very young. She died at the age of like 19 in childbirth. So terrible, terrible tragedy. I asked him about that, but that's not what the answer is about. Now, at least on the Logitech that was coming through to my headset, which I'm going to show you here, is amazing because these chunks of information that come forward, she says, "This is Betty." His assistant's name was Betty Tillsbury. I just got weird shivers on my legs here. I asked her when I did the session at the sink to come through, but I asked her like in my mind before before I shot the session. She just said, "This is Betty." She's letting me know that she came through, and what she says is about something totally different because there was another terrible accident that happens, which we're going to get into. So just remember, his assistant's name was Betty Tillsbury. She clearly comes through right here, and she's talking about whether it's the accident or not. I don't know, but have a listen. I'm sure it took many years of dedicated work to sculpt your body. Are you proud of the results you attained and what you achieved by not only your physical strength, but by your mental strength as well? When World War I broke out, Alexander was sent to the 180th Windavsky Infantry Regiment. As part of a small group, he made equestrian raids along enemy lines. An ardent reformer in his normal peacetime life, at the front, he turned into a stern and dashing warrior. It is known that he was promoted in rank for his bravery in combat. There is also a legend of how his stallion was wounded in the front leg in the course of a raid, and how Alexander waited for night, hoisted his horse on his shoulders, and went with him to the trenches. Captured in battle 4 times during the war, Alexander would also escape 4 times, though he saw his share of injuries and hardships during the global ordeal. It was said that you were a dashing warrior on the front lines. How do you feel about war? At one point, you almost lost your legs due to injury. Did your willpower alone sustain you and heal you? Do you think you could have escaped 4 times if you were not as physically strong? What did it feel like when they chained you up like some animal? Did you really carry your horse back to your trench? Or was that just some kind of fable or legend? When Alexander wasn't touring, he lived in a bungalow in Rockford, Essex, with land for his animals. The area was then a popular overwintering place for circus performers. His pre-war assistant, Betty Tilbury, and her husband, Sid, also a variety and stage performer, looked after the bungalow for him when he was away. They were probably the closest he had to family, and when he retired in the mid-1950s, they lived together until he died in 1962. He left his estate to Betty. Betty at some point had become severely disabled. Pre-war, she had assisted Zass in several daredevil stunts, including one where, dangling upside down, he lifted her and a grand piano on a cable by his teeth. Until the time when the cable snapped or slipped out of his mouth and she fell, the piano landed on top of her and she was left with a broken spine. Did this happen? It does not seem to have received the press coverage you would expect for such a tragedy, bearing in mind that Zass was so well known. But the story was repeated in the Daily Mirror when it reported on his death on 20th September 1962, the day after he died. The Mirror quoted Betty as saying, "The strongest thing he ever did was try to make it up to me and my husband by providing us with our home." I feel that your bond with animals may be understated. How important were your animal friends to you? Betty Tilbury suffered a broken spine when that piano fell on her. Did you feel extreme guilt over this accident? Did Betty ever forgive you? Thought I heard, like, Grant, yes. Does your soul and Betty's remain in contact now? If you came back to Earth to live another life, would you attempt to be a strongman again, or would you choose something different? Alexander, do you have a message for the world that we live in now, today, in 2024? All right, thank you, sir. Love, peace, joy, and adventure to you and the team. I'm going to send out some light right now. That was the light of adventure and circus life, you know. Hopefully it was a thrilling life. All right, love, peace, joy, and adventure to you viewers. We'll catch you guys in the next video. If you are intrigued by the research I'm doing here and you think that I might actually be onto something, feel free to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who may also enjoy the material. You can check out our Reddit community over on the Reddit page, r/optimalfrequency. If you want to donate like these folks have on the screen, you can use the donate button on the top of the YouTube banner. Every dollar is appreciated. Love, peace, joy, and adventure to all of you. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you in the next video.